Shari Roberts, and I teach here at Concord Expo Elementary and been here since 2014. Okay, started here at Concord in 1984 and was at Concord Eastside teaching a self-contained ED classroom. 10 years was at Eastside, and then from Eastside, after our fourth child was born, I went over to Concord Westside and was at Westside from 94 until I believe it was 2009. And then Concord did the Concord Shuffle, and I was able to go over to Southside and was at Southside until I want to say 2014. And then here I am at Expo. So my favorite part of teaching just has been to be with the kids. And certainly there's hard days, a lot of hard days, but they just bring me joy and make me laugh. So it's that part that's what brings me to work each day. One thing that has always troubled me is when I hear people say they can't, a student can't do it. Every student can do something, and they can do it well. That to me needs to be always remembered by a teacher, that a student can do it. And they live up to our expectations. So if we expect that they can't, then they won't when they're with you. But if we expect that they can, then they likely will, at least maybe not until the end of the year, but they likely will get there once they know you have that relationship with them. So what have I learned from that as the years have marched on, and what's become maybe the growth for me is to know, and what I've worked at actually, but not to take something personal. Or if I do start to take it personal, whether it's from a child or a colleague, then I need to talk to myself and say, how am I going to change that? So to me, that's probably one of the most valuable things I've learned. That and a sense of humor. Without a sense of humor, I would have been done years ago.
I'm Vicky Gaudi. I work at Concord Junior High for the last 38 years. I'm a math teacher. I mainly have taught 7th grade for all that time, and I'm also the math chair. Okay, so I went to Elkhart Schools, and after graduating from Elkhart Central, I then went to IU. I was a math major, not an education student. I did end up doing a 9-week maternity leave at Westside Elementary, and honestly, I really didn't enjoy it, and I didn't think I wanted to teach after that. And then I got a call late in the summer, like 3 days before school started, and came in, took an interview. They called me right back, said we'd want you, and so then I've been here for 38 years. When I first came to Concord, I was given a textbook and an overhead and some vis-a-vis pens, and that was what I did. Okay, I used the overhead. I could look at the kids, and at the time we had 45-minute periods. And I thought, oh my goodness, if we had any longer, they talked about having longer periods. I thought, what would I do with more than 45 minutes? Then we came to this building, and this building is an amazing building, and we had all this technology, and my style of teaching has totally changed. It's, I'm not just standing in front of the kids anymore. They're more interactive. They're up and around. So it's really changed a lot, and a lot for the good. One of the things, when I started my career, I started it because I love mathematics. I got a major in math. I did not get a major in education, and I took a lot of math, and I love doing math. And when you come to this profession, you cannot just love your subject. Probably the most important part about this profession is the students in your classroom. And I used to tell young teachers, okay, your job really is 80% crowd control and 20% your subject matter. Because if you don't have crowd control, if you don't have the kids respecting you and participating, then you have nothing. You can't teach them anything. Even though you might be the smartest person in the world and know math better than anybody else, if they're not listening to you, you're not teaching. As oftentimes kids come here, and sometimes for the first time, they realize that they can do the math and they can feel good about it.
My name is Nancy Tinder, and I am a kindergarten teacher at Concord Westside. When I started teaching, I was a second grade teacher at Bristol Elementary. Then I did some substitute teaching for a year, actually spent several months at Eastside in sixth grade that year, and then came to Westside. So I've been at Westside for 36 years, 8 of those in second grade, and the remainder has been right in this room, teaching kindergarten. When I first came, we had 2 sections of every grade, and it really allowed for a lot of interaction between teachers and a lot of group activities and things that we did. And now we've grown, we're much larger than that, even with only kindergarten through 4th. One of the things that has changed the most is the diversity at our school, and it has brought with it a lot of challenges, but also a lot of rewarding experiences, and we really embrace that at Westside, and are very proud of how we've managed to deal with that new type of population. One piece of advice I have for teachers who are younger, who are just starting their careers, is to write it down. That's probably the one thing that I regret, is that all the funny things that kids have said, the touching things that have happened, the maybe not so touching things at times, I wish I had written them down. Well, this can be a difficult time to be a teacher, and those of us who've been around a while kind of miss those days gone by and wish things were different, but they're not. And so I think it's really important that you find some way to really have that joy that we talk about. You know, at least teach something within that school year that you are really passionate about. All of us want to love the kids that we work with, and that it's a challenge, and it's a pleasure as well to find out how to love each one. That they all have different needs, they all have different backgrounds and experiences, and even the difficult ones, in fact, the difficult ones probably need your love more than the others. So it's always important to find that way to love each one of your students and to let them know or show them that you really care about them.
I interviewed in the summer of 1990. There were quite a few applicants, so I was nervous, but I got the job. So that was my fantasy job, because I graduated from Concord in 1979, and it was great to come back and have as colleagues some of my favorite former teachers. So I started in the fall of 1990, and the school was a lot different then. This hallway did not exist. School was much smaller. We had no air conditioning, no computers, no telephones in the rooms. We had that button to push, overhead projectors, transparencies, but a lot of laughter and good friendships. I don't think I can zero in on one favorite memory. I have so many. Some of my best friends have been the people that I work with. I'm fortunate. I think if anyone's considering going into teaching, please know you're going to be surrounded by the best people ever. You can't think of a more rewarding career to have when you get to work with your best friends. And there's a lot of laughter, there is a lot of stress, but we're all in this together. We learn from each other. I've learned so much from the people I've worked with. I wouldn't be the teacher that I am, or the person that I am, if it weren't for the people I've had the joy of working with. If you are coming into Concord as a new teacher, or new to Concord at least, please know that you are entering a wonderful community. There's a lot of history here. It's just people that go back a long way. Just know that you're entering a community that you'll consider your family. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody that I've worked with at Concord. You mean so much to me. I've learned so much from you. It'd be my administrators, my colleagues, my coworkers, and maybe most of all my students. I have learned so much from you. You amaze me every single day. Thank you.
I'm Jan Longcore. I work at Concord Intermediate School. In 1997, we had just come back from living in Russia for a year, and my boys went off to school, and after they went off to school the first day, I just kind of went, huh. now what am I going to do? So I walked into Concord West Side, where my boys were students, and said, do you have any jobs? And so I worked for 2 years as a kindergarten para, half-time at Concord West Side. And then towards the end of that second year, there was going to be a position in ESL opening up, and so I went to the principal and talked to him about that, and I got that job. So I was at Westside until 2010 when this building opened, and then that's when I moved here. So when I first started in ESL was when the whole boom in immigration was just really beginning in this community. So I remember in the spring when I was hired for the job that next fall, that there were maybe 75 kids at Westside that were considered ESL. By that fall, the number was already 120. And then within a couple of years, it had grown to 300. So the amount of immigrants that we have really have changed over the years. When I first started in ESL, we were not required to test kids who were not fluent in English on the state testing. Now the law is you show up and your first day of school is the first day of iLearn. You take the test with everybody else, even in language arts. Well, what has given me life in teaching has been working with newcomer students. I grew up overseas. I grew up in Brazil, so I grew up in a bilingual family. I experienced what kids experience moving to another culture. And even though my family was American, even coming back here, it was a lot of third culture kids things. Some people are familiar with that term, where you, at least for a while, feel like you don't belong to either culture because you're a mixture. And so I can really identify with kids coming from another culture and from another country. And then in my church, we're very involved globally, and I've had the opportunity to do a lot of traveling and going to a lot of different kinds of cultures that way. In fact, 6 different continents. And so all of those things have pulled together, and then teaching ESL has been like, well, when I can't go out to the nations come to me, and so it's win-win.
Hello everyone, I'm John Trout, former superintendent at Concord Community Schools. I was about 2 months shy of completing my 4th year at Concord Community Schools. I just want to tell you, thank you. You helped make my 4 years there a truly special time in my life. Concord was the highlight of my career, as I've said, and the pinnacle of my career. And what truly made it that way is the daily interaction I had with all of you. So to school board members and administrators and teachers and staff members and the community, I just say thank you. I believe I'm a better person at the end of the 4 years than when I walked in, and it's because of all of you and what you have done for me in my life and the truth that you spoke into my life. I will be forever grateful for you. When I arrived at Concord, I was aware of the rich history and the great traditions. Once I arrived at Concord, I immediately understood that I had to lead differently than in any way I've ever led before. And I'm glad I did make those changes. And many of you helped convince me that those changes were necessary. No, we didn't agree all the time, but please know that I never lost sight of your importance of working with kids every day. What I respected about all of you is you lead with kids every day. Not a lot of places do that. And to that, I felt truly blessed for you allowing me to be part of your school district. I was asked recently if I'd ever be a superintendent again. I said no, I would not. And the person asked me, well, why wouldn't you be a superintendent again? And I said the only place that I would ever be superintendent is at Concord.